Kia ora. This is the very first video in a series of videos prepared for the Religious Diversity Centre. The Religious Diversity Centre in Aotearoa, New Zealand, or short the RDC, is a national centre of educational research, excellence, dedicated to fostering appreciation and understanding of religious diversity among all New Zealanders. My name is Beate Mattis, and my guest today is Verpal Singh. Verpal is a radio broadcaster, researcher, writer, and editor. He's also a trustee of the RDC and is head of the Sikh Centre in New Zealand. Every year, the New Zealand RDC is publishing a calendar with important dates of different religions and faiths. When I looked through the calendar, I realized that there were many Sikh festivals. Verpal, can you help us a little bit understanding more about the religion, the Sikh religion that is based in Punjabi, is that right?
Punjab, yes, Punjab is the region, and Punjabi is the language that's spoken in that region. But first of all, thank you very much for facilitating this video. And let's start with the Sikh greeting, which is Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh, which translated means that every initiated Sikh is answerable to the Creator, to the Almighty God. And whatever accomplishment or whatever victory that person achieves is not their own, it is of that Almighty. Because anything that we do, everything that we do, we are able to do because God made us capable of doing it. So we can't claim any triumphs. It is all up to the Creator. And regarding the religion itself, it started in the northern part of the South Asian subcontinent, which then underwent many geographical or rather political changes in since the time of the founder Guru Nanak, who was born in 1469. And today, that part of Punjab where the founder Guru was born is in Pakistan. And the other major city which was founded by the fourth Guru, and the fifth Guru then built there one of the most famous of the Sikh monuments, what is called the Golden Temple, but the Sikhs call it Darbar Sahib in Amritsar. So that is on the Indian side. But during the, I would say, the peak of the Sikh power in the 18th and 19th century, Punjab was in itself an independent country. So it was colonized by the British and all the upheavals which accompanied it. Today, it is divided between Pakistan and India, and the freedom and the sovereignty has been lost now for nearly 200 years. So all that has had an impact on the Sikhs, like when the partition of Punjab took place in 1947, there was so much killing, and nearly 1 million people died. False rumors and hatred, which was deliberately provoked between communities, resulted in 1 million deaths, and people lost their generational homes, the lands, property, family members. But that also resulted in a lot of my community members who were uprooted from the Pakistani side of the Punjab. They ended up in America, in UK, in Canada, and in many other countries. So if we were to look at the positive side, that all that upheaval in fact resulted in the Sikh community and the Sikh religion in a way becoming global by default rather than whereas before 1947 it was more Punjab centric or the South Asian centric religion rather than a world religion. But now we are in every corner of the world.
Verpal, can you explain a little bit about the origin, about the beginning of the Sikh religion?
The origin is that Guru Nanak, he was the founder guru. He was born in 1469 in what is today called Nankana Sahib, which is a city now in on the Pakistani side of Punjab. And he was born in a non-Sikh family, a Hindu family. And he rebelled against the illogical practices and the blind superstitious practices of the faith he was born in. And he did not accept anything simply because his ancestors had been following it. He questioned everything. And for example, when he was 8 years old, there was a ceremony amongst the Hindus which he was asked to undergo, and he refused because his older sister hadn't been allowed to undergo that ceremony because she was a woman. So he refused to undergo that ceremony, and beginning from that moment or even before then, he then started to not only question the existing practices, not only of his own faith, but the other faiths people practiced around him. But it wasn't kind of non-directional or a wild rebellion. He knew what he was trying to do, because in pursuit of the knowledge that he was seeking, he traveled the thousands of miles in all four directions. To the east, he went even beyond the present day Bangladesh capital Dhaka, and even up to Burma, Myanmar today's. And to the west, he went up to the Muslim pilgrimage center, or the Muslim center, Makkah and Medina. And to the north, he went up to Tibet. And to the south, he went to present day Sri Lanka. So, and while he was traveling, he wasn't simply traveling, he was traveling on the pilgrimage routes. Like even to Makkah and Medina, he was traveling on the Muslim pilgrimage routes. To the north, to Tibet, he was traveling on the Buddhist pilgrimage routes. And to the south, also the Buddhist and Hindu pilgrimage centers. So all these travels, he then deliberately, by design, sought out people in the areas where he stayed, who were seen by the local population as men of God, the people who were seen as spiritually accomplished, which in Punjabi language we refer to these men of God as Bhagat. So he then collected the writings of these people, and he saw a unity of thought in these writings, that all these people that he collected the writings of, some of them were born 300, 400, 100 years before Guru Nanak, and some were his contemporaries. So he collected these writings, he pondered them over, and then he passed these on to his successor guru. So gradually, these by the time we reach the fifth successor or the fifth guru, Guru Arjan, whose martyrdom day is by the reformed calendar 16th of June. It's the fifth Guru who then compiles all these writings collected by Guru Nanak, and Guru Nanak's own writings, plus the writings of the second, third, fourth, and the fifth Guru's own writings. And he compiles all of it into one volume, which is called the Ad Bead, or the Guru Granth, which is then given the status of the Guru in the 10th Guru's time. So all that, in a way, it tells us that by the time we reach the 10th Guru's time, from 1469 to 1708, when the 10th Guru died, what we realize is that it has always been the word or the knowledge that was the center of the Sikh journey. That Guru Nanak gathered the knowledge, Guru Nanak added his own insights and understanding to it, and the successor Gurus then expanded those insights and their understanding and gave their followers, the Sikhs, a worldview which covers every aspect of a person's life and of the world around.
That is very interesting what you say about the history, because when you think of starting in the 15th century, that's around the time when people were thinking in Europe about things not being right in many aspects, I mean, in religious aspects, and they were about superstition and about certain rules that were not applied as they should have been applied. And that's where that gave birth to the Reformation. And so at the same time, you would have your first guru thinking about this is not right or this is not right. So it's like a wave going through the world. In many places, people walk up and say, this is not right. If my sister can't go, that's not fair. So he was very modern.
He was,
first guru.
Yeah, and his one of his hymns or shabad that he wrote, and which is part of Guru Granth Sahib now, he questions that why do you demean or use derogatory language for a woman when the woman gives birth to the kings and the warriors? So you worship the kings, or you bow down to the king, or you worship the warrior or see the warrior as a role model, but you look down upon the woman who gave birth to them. So that's the question that he raises, and he answers it, that there is no difference between a man and a woman. And then he lays out the concept of equality, wherein he clearly states that any kind of discrimination, whether because in the South Asian subcontinent, the main discrimination is on the base of caste, which is a Hindu religious construct, and it is kind of a very insidious concept to escape, which is virtually impossible.
Yeah.
So even those who have converted to Christianity in India, or to Islam, or even to the Sikh religion, they find it hard to get rid of caste. Like amongst the Sikhs, the caste system is completely different from the Hindu caste system, but it is still there and being promoted by the system, which is the system of governance, which is in place in India post 1947. What I mean by that is the system of reservation in jobs and in admissions, which asks you to give your caste and get a benefit. Now, if a Sikh doesn't give their caste, they cannot get the benefit. And if they give up their caste, list their caste, then they are in a way moving, deviating from the Sikh practices. So it's kind of this way that people are forced to make choices, uh, which the community has been grappling with. But then, because everything today is around money and around material benefits and everything, so we are kind of finding it difficult how caste has been creeping into the religion again.
It's like culture and religion mingling.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Can we talk about these 3 feast days? Because as I mentioned, there are lots of feast days for the Sikh religion, and which is fascinating when I see the calendar and I look at the Sikh feast days. So there are 3 feast days in June, mid-June until beginning of July. And so the first one is on the 11th of June, and then on the 16th of June and the 2nd of July. Can you tell us a little bit more about these feast days?
Yeah, they are not really feast days. They are more commemoration of historical days. Like the one on the 11th of June is the Gurgaddi of the 6th Guru, which is that this is the day on which the 6th Guru became the Guru after the 5th Guru. So that's what Guru Gaddi means, that he became a Guru on that day. And we commemorate that day as the day on which the 6th Guru took up the leadership or the Guruship of the community. The 16th of June is the martyrdom day of the 5th Guru. That's the day on which the 5th Guru was martyred by the political and religious dispensation of that day. He was tortured and tortured to death, actually, because the political and religious dispensation of the day saw him as a threat to their hegemony. The 2nd of July one, that's the foundation day of Akal Takht, which is, I talked about Darbar Sahib and the Golden Temple that's erroneously called in Amritsar. There are 2 main buildings there. One is the whole complex is Darbar Sahib, and one is Harmandir, where Guru Granth Sahib, which is in the center of the Sarovar, which is the water tank or the sacred pool, which in Punjabi or the Sikh terminology is called Sarovar. And directly opposite to the Harmandir is Akal Takht. So the concept in those 2 buildings is that Harmandir is the center of the spiritual practices, and Akal Takht is the center of the material practices or the political and material practices. What it kind of personifies is the concept of Miri and Piri, which are in the Sikh worldview. Miri Piri is a hyphenated term, which means that the material and spiritual cannot be separated. That in every spiritual action, there is an underlying worldly aspect to it. And in every worldly action, there is an underlying spiritual aspect to it. So whenever we are acting, we cannot say that because now I'm acting spiritually, so I can do this, this, this. And now because I am not acting spiritually, I'm acting materially, so I'm allowed to do these things. So there is no kind of separation, that both operate together. So we cannot really claim, I would say, a holiday from practicing the religion. It's always there.
Yes, that happens in many religions. You're absolutely right. Verpal, can you tell us more about the logo of logo? In the logo of the Religious Diversity Center, there is a Sikh symbol. Can you tell
Yeah.
us what it is and why it is shaped like this?
The symbol is called Khanda.
So that's the one next to the menorah. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yes, and I think the on the other side of the Khanda is the Buddhist symbol, if I'm not wrong. The Khanda itself is a combination kind of symbol that on the outer are two swords which are called kirpan, and in the after the kirpans, the round one is the chakra. And in the center is the sword called Khanda itself. The whole symbol is also called Khanda, and the sword in the middle is also called Khanda. The Khanda is the double-edged sword, and the swords on the side are the single-edged ones. The circle in the middle is the chakra. It's also a weapon, or what's called a poet. So the symbolism in all this is that the outer swords are, one is for Miri or material world, and the other is for Piri, the spiritual side. And the center chakra is kind of the cycle of life and death, which has no beginning and no end, that life continues and ends in death, and death then is merged in life again. So that's the cycle of life and death. But in the middle, everything kind of combines, that it is all part of that whole, rather than separate. We see them separate, but in fact, they all combine into one whole. So that is the Khanda.
That is beautiful. That's what a wonderful meaning and the symbolism behind it.
Yep, and I think every Sikh who knows might not anything else about Sikhi, but they definitely know their Khanda, and you see the Khanda sometimes on in the form of a tattoo on the arm of a non-practicing Sikh, that they might not even have a turban or beard. They might be clean shaven, but they'll have the Khanda as a tattoo on the forearm or on the.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it also brings luck. Is it something like this? Is it a blessing?
Not really. More like identifying themselves as a Sikh. So they might have it as part of a necklace around the neck, or those kind of things. That this is, in a way, I would say that universally identified as someone who's supporting it, that the person must be a Sikh.
Well, that's great. And you call yourself Sikh, and you just mentioned Sikhi.
Yeah.
So the person is a Sikh and the religion is Sikh, or what is Sikhi?
Sikhi is the religion, the way we see it. But in the colonial times, obviously they created their own terms. So the British would refer to us as followers of Sikh religion or Sikhism.
Mm-hmm.
But our term for ourselves is we are Sikh and we follow Sikhi.
Does it mean something? Is it a word that is a name, or is it some meaning behind Sikh?
Sikh is a learner. It comes from the Pali language, which is the language of the Buddhists or the Buddhist scriptures. But it is also kind of mother language of hundreds of dialects in South Asia and even Southeast Asia, because around the 2nd or 3rd century BC, there was a king or an emperor in South Asia who conquered vast lands in South Asia and created one of the biggest empires. And the only other emperor to emulate that, in a way, geographically came close to that size empire was Aurangzeb, the Mughal emperor in the 17th and 18th and 17th century. But after that, it was the British who then created the biggest empire to be ruled from Delhi. But the empire in the 2nd and 3rd century BC, that emperor, he sent his emissaries and his he was the one who converted to Buddhism and then helped Buddhist religion expand, because he sent his emissaries or his the Buddhist monks in all directions, in Tibet, in China, in Cambodia, in up to Indonesia, and wherever you see Buddhism, it is in fact in that 3rd century BC emperor who had sent emissaries, the monks, on to propagate the religion. So with that, the language, Pali language, that also took root in all these places. And combining with the native language of each area, then it created these dialects which gradually evolved into the languages that we speak in all these areas today. So Punjabi, in fact, can be traced to Pali because many of the words are common, like Vasak, the month of Vasak. It is written the same way in Pali language as we write it in Punjabi. And the Sikh, the word Sikh itself is written the same way in Pali language as we write it in Punjabi.
Wonderful. That is amazing. So it's really connecting over the continent, and as you say, with the first guru being going to different countries and enlightening himself and seeking knowledge. So that is really helpful to understand more about Sikhism and Sikh religion.
Sikh term itself translated means that the learner, the one who's always learning, so a student. So we are the students of the Guru, and we are always seeking. We can always also translate as the seeker.
The
so we are
seeker,
always
yes.
seeking.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you very much, Verpal. Thank you for these explanations. And we will continue in the series about different religions, and we'll continue also on the Sikh religion, because we've just touched a little bit in this half an hour, and there is a lot more to learn.
Thank you very much, Beatri, and I appreciate this opportunity, and absolutely looking forward to continuing this.